The doctors were certain he wouldn't make it past age 18. A fragile boy, born with a heart disease, he was destined for an early grave. But he lived, and not only lived, he excelled and thrived, showing exceptional brilliance from his high school days up until his university days, graduating as one of the best from the Department of Applied Mathematics. By all accounts, he should be remembered as one of the great minds of his era. However, beneath all of that brilliance was something darker, an obsession with control that would unleash chaos across the world.
Я объявляю свои подписи произведениями искусства.
This is the story of a genius who died like a nobody. Sergei Mavrodi was born on August 11, 1955 in Moscow, deep in the heart of the Soviet Union. His father, Pantelei Andreevich Mavrodi, was an installer, while his mother, Valentina Fedorovna, an economist. They were a modest working-class couple trying to raise their sons in the best way possible. The older was quite different from the younger. Sergei was the first of two boys born to his parents. He was a very quiet kid who rarely played outside with other kids, largely due to the fact that as a kid he was diagnosed with a bilateral heart defect. This heart defect made Sergei fall in love with his studies from a young age, studying numbers and complex mathematical equations extensively for hours compared to his peers. By the time he was a teenager, Sergei was an academic genius. He displayed exceptional academic ability, especially in mathematics, logic, and theoretical problem solving. All through his high school, the young man showed great talent and was the winner of numerous physical and mathematical Olympiads. Sometimes, he even held lessons on behalf of his teachers. He wasn't just good at maths, he breathed it. After his high school in 1972, he tried to enroll at the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, known for producing top scientists and engineers. Sadly, he did not pass the entrance examinations. Well, that did not weigh him down, as he moved on to apply to Moscow Institute of Electronic Engineering, Department of Applied Mathematics. According to his classmates, the mathematical abilities of Sergei Mavrodi were fantastic. As a freshman, he won various competitions in mathematics and physics organized between universities. However, as time went, he lost interest in his studies and did not attend classes as most students. Nevertheless, he still topped his class. He said, "If I was able to get the lecture notes at least 6 hours before the exam and have some alone time to read through, I will pass the exam without any problems." While as an undergraduate, he got interested in Sambo, which is Russian martial art, and having a weight of 60 kilograms, he became the champion of his university's open category. However, upon graduating from Moscow Institute of Electronic Engineering, his semi-professional sports career came to an end because further growth in it demanded too much time, which he didn't have. Upon graduation in 1978, Mavrodi worked for some time as a programmer, but then he resigned because he wasn't feeling fulfilled by just being a programmer. He wanted control, influence. Even as a student, he always questioned how and why people followed rules and how those rules could be bent, broken, or rendered inefficient. Just 2 years after graduating, tragedy struck Sergei's family. In 1980, he lost his father to lung cancer. 6 years later, his mother followed, taken by liver cancer. The two people who had anchored his world, gone. What remained was silence, grief, and a man drowning in the shadows of his own mind. These were the years that carved deep wounds into Sergei's soul. Years that stripped him of stability, of innocence, of love. And as his world was crumbling, so also was the Soviet Union. In the late 80s, the empire he had known all his life began to collapse into chaos. For most people, it was a time of fear and despair, but Sergei saw something else. In the chaos, in the despair, he saw an opportunity that would change everything. The year was 1989. As the Soviet Union began economic reforms and restructuring, Sergei Mavrodi wasted no time because that same year, he registered a company with two partners. His younger brother, Vyacheslav, and a woman named Olga Melnikova. Together they called it MMM. At first, MMM imported electronics, computers, televisions, anything the crumbling Soviet middle class desperately wanted, and it gained a decent level of success and recognition. However, in 1992, MMM became more recognizable after Mavrodi offered residents of Moscow a day of free metro trips. Few months down the line, MMM was accused of tax evasion and the company's assets were frozen by Russian authorities. That legal roadblock pushed Mavrodi into a new direction, a direction that will bring more fame and fortune, the Ponzi scheme version of MMM. By 1994, the company had reinvented itself as an investment fund. People were promised outrageous returns of up to 1000% per month. At its peak in Russia, MMM claimed to have millions of investors. Interestingly, Mavrodi was initially going to print his own MMM money.
Я объявляю свои подписи произведениями искусства.
MMM lasted only 6 months, a period during which the number of participants estimated to be about 10 to 15 million people in Moscow alone. With a daily revenue of about $50 million, the rush and boom was stimulated by largely conducted massive television ads in the soap opera style. And Sergei became a celebrity, though a monk-like introvert, but a celebrity.
Моя цель собрать эти разрозненные, бьющиеся друг с другом индивидуальные жадности в одну. Жадность одного, пусть даже очень сильного, мощного человека, ничто по сравнению вот с этой жадностью миллиона. То есть МММ – это такой аккумулятор жадности, да? И одновременно ее усилитель. Каждый приносит свою индивидуальную жадность в виде денег. С ростом процентов растет и жадность. Ее умарная корпускулярная энергия. Это энергия моя.
He never looked the part of a typical financial messiah. No suit, no stage charisma, just a pale man in glasses, oversized shirts, with a quiet intensity. He avoided flashy cars, avoided public appearances, but what he couldn't avoid was the crash.
Как сообщает это ТАСС, изъятие финансовых документов акционерного общества МММ начали в четверг вечером сотрудники Департамента налоговой полиции.
Mavrodi was arrested in August 1994 on charges of tax evasion on income of his company MMM. As one of the investigators said later, well, how could we not arrest you? Another month or two and there would be no president, no government in the country. There would only be Sergei Mavrodi alone, the one and only. It was also reported by eyewitnesses during the crackdown that the Special Forces commandos had taken cash from MMM's office with about 17 trucks. When Sergei was finally arrested, he didn't panic because even in handcuffs, he was planning his next move, politics. Putting Mavrodi behind bars didn't limit his fame and power because directly from the prison, he temporarily suspended the activities of the system and started collecting signatures for registering as a candidate for the State Duma of the Russian Federation. So the thing is, he was never interested in politics and its activities. He said he never liked it. However, due to the magnitude of his enterprise, he was forced to deal with it constantly, one way or another, and due to that, he had to pull off the impossible. He scammed his way into power. Funny enough, during his election campaign, Mavrodi did not keep it as a secret that he's going to State Duma solely for the sake of parliamentary immunity. And true to his words, after being elected as deputy, he never attended any of its meetings. He also refused to get a salary and all benefits provided to the deputies. In the year 1995, Sergei Mavrodi's parliament mandate was revoked. He was rearrested because he was found taking part in business activities and also never attending parliamentary meetings. After the revocation of Sergei Mavrodi's parliament mandate, the investigations against him were restarted and he was added into Russia's wanted list. Mavrodi spent the next several years locked in a cycle of legal troubles locally and internationally. He spent much of this period in and out of courtrooms, under investigation or on the run. It got so bad that at one point, he went into hiding using fake documents and changing addresses frequently to avoid arrest.
Ты чего? Мы же к маме едем.
Eventually, in 2003, he was caught and charged with defrauding millions of investors of millions and millions of dollars. According to Mavrodi, he said he didn't spend anything on himself. He solely invested the money back into the business. After a long trial and investigation of over 3 years, Mavrodi was sentenced to 4.5 years in penal colony. But prison didn't break him, it fueled him. Even behind bars, Mavrodi was writing, reading economic theory, learning about global currencies, and planning how to do it all again on a bigger scale. He wasn't done yet. He didn't return to a quiet life. Instead, he began developing a new version of his original idea, a new MMM. This time, it will be global, which meant it will cause greater damage.
Sergei Mavrodi is back, unrepentantly, unashamedly promising that a new pyramid investment scheme will yield Russians returns of 20% a year, just like he said it would in the 1990s.
By 2011, Sergei Mavrodi was fully back on his feet, and that same year, he launched MMM Global. He called it Mutual Aid Fund and Financial Social Network. No guarantees, no legal entity, no refunds, but behind that soft language was the same cold system, a pure Ponzi. Early participants were paid by later ones, and just like in the 90s, the profits looked real until they vanished. This time around, he wasn't targeting Russians. He went after the world's most vulnerable, the struggling, the unemployed, the desperate, in developing countries around the world like India, China, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Ghana, and Nigeria. Trust me, no place embraced MMM like African nations. Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, with millions of unemployed youth and a culture of hustle. When MMM launched in Nigeria in the year 2015, it spread faster than wildfire. It wasn't called investing, it was called providing help. In its early days, it worked. People got paid. Participants made videos thanking Mavrodi.
Hello viewers, my name is Abimbola, a participant of MMM Nigeria. Long live MMM, together we change the world.
Fast forward to 1 year later, MMM suddenly paused in different countries at different months. They said it was to protect the system. Millions were locked out, their money gone. It was the same story in different countries and continents. And while families grieved, Sergei Mavrodi disappeared from public eye again. No apology, no appearance.
Okay, Angwani, the founder of this scheme, Sergei Mavrodi, is a convicted fraudster in Russia there. Is that perhaps the lead?
It is a lead, a serious lead, in fact.
Between 2016 and 2017, as more MMM global branches failed, Mavrodi's influence began to fade. By this time, Mavrodi was living quietly in Moscow, rarely making public appearances. He was deeply in debt and was reportedly working on new financial ideas. But in reality, he was isolated, struggling financially, and under pressure from both creditors and law enforcement. Fast forward to the 26th of March 2018, in an hospital in Moscow, Sergei Mavrodi drew his final breath. So what caused his death? He had reportedly been experiencing chest pain and was rushed to the hospital by Good Samaritans. A few hours later, he was pronounced dead due to heart failure. His bilateral heart defect finally took him. He died at the age of 62, alone and in so much death. No funeral procession, no national mourning, just a quiet end for one of the most genius yet dangerous minds of the 20th and 21st century. His body was unclaimed for days. No official tribute was made. No family stepped forward because he never really had one, aside his parents, who passed on in the 80s. We don't know what happened to the relationship between him and his brother. The record says he was married once to Elena Pavlyuchenko, whom he met in the early 90s, as at the time, MMM made use of photo models for advertising. She soon became the face of the company and the bride of the rich Mavrodi. For his lover, Mavrodi organized beauty contests in which she obviously won. Elena led MMM's modeling agency as at the time. Their marriage lasted just 12 years, from 1993 to 2005. After the divorce from Mavrodi, Elena changed her name and disappeared from the view of the media. It was also reported that Mavrodi and Elena had a daughter, whom Elena took to custody after the divorce.
Пап, ты чего? Мы же к маме едем.
Едешь. Что бы про меня не говорили, ты твердо знай, я никогда не был в...
After his death, documents were found, not of bank accounts, not of riches, but diagrams, plans, systems. Mavrodi cared less about money, he cared more about control, about testing how far a lie could go before it collapsed under its own weight.